In this deeper look at language, I want to start with the idea of nose and nose. So N-O-S-E, nose, to smell something, to know something through smell. And K-N-O-W-S, to know something. We can see there's a lot of similarity in the sound. They sound identical. And the question is, which is more real? If you nose something by smelling it, is that more real than something that you think you know by thinking it or by seeing it? And it seems to me that smelling something, sniffing it out, something doesn't smell right, could be a more reliable sense of knowing than to know that your political party is correct, or to know that what you said is accurate or valid. In many ways, the nose seems a little bit more reliable. Now, turning to another field, we have the combination of right and right and right. So one form of right is the sense of human rights. So we have a right to free speech, for example. Another form of right is I am right, as in this is the right way to go there, or this is the right way to do this. So it's another form of right. And then another form of right, R-I-T-E, is a ritual, as in the rite of spring by Stravinsky, a series of enactments, a rite of passage. And so what do these different forms of right have in common? How do they fit together? Well, if you think of a right to do something, like, do you have a right to enter this building? Well, this is, a question about a system. Because, for example, in the US, the United States, the right to enter a building has to do with a system of law. And so the law says that people who have a contract, who own title, they have a right to the building. Now, why? Because it is a system of law. And so in a system of law, there is a system of laws. And the laws grant the right of certain people to do certain things and deny other people the right to do certain things. And so the right to enter a building has to do with whether one's relationship to a system. Because if you take away the system of law, then you have a right of, I guess, physics. So in the system of physics, if you can move your hand, you have the right to move your hand because that's physics. If you cannot move your hand, you're disabled, you're numb, it's not your hand, then you don't have the right. And so it's might makes right in the physical framework, or in tribal warfare, might makes right. If you can win the war, you have a right to win the war, and you have the right to be the victor. If you cannot, then you do not have the right. And so the sense of of a right to do something is determined by the system that one is using. Because, for example, if one applies a Buddhist system, then one could say one does not have the right to do such and such, to kill someone else in an act of war. But if you use the physics system, then you could say, well, one does have the right. If one can do it, one has the right of freedom. And in order for anything to be free, you have to be able to turn left and right. You have to be able to kill and not kill, or it's not a freedom. To tell someone you have the freedom to eat peas, and they say, well, I don't want to eat peas, and they would say, well, you have the freedom to eat peas, meaning you have to eat the peas, isn't freedom, right? In order to have freedom, you've got to have choice. And so the right to be free implies freedom, and freedom implies the right to do the right thing or the wrong thing. Now, the right to do the right thing and what is the right thing depends and connects to the wrong thing. Meaning all polarities are defined by one another. Black is defined as the opposite of white. White is defined as the opposite of black. Up is the opposite of down. You can't say something is up without referencing down. You have to reference something moving towards the opposite. And in that way, all opposites depend on one another, or the idea of the opposite collapses. If you take the circle, the ultimate shape in the multiverse, and you cut it in half, first of all, both halves of a circle are equal. And secondly, the circle no longer functions without both halves. In order to restore the ecology, one needs both parts. If you discard a portion of the circle, it is no longer a circle. And so the circle requires all parts of the circle to be a part of it. Now, if you think of how does one get the legal right to an apartment? Well, you have to go into the system of, in this case, law, because laws are governing the rights. And so you would say, well, I would walk to this person's house. I would look at the house. I would say that I will take the house. I will take these bits of paper called money and I will hand them to the person who wants to lease the apartment. And then I would sign the contract. And now I have the right. Now, what is that? So if we look at the difference between a right as a ritual, a rite of passage, a rite of spring, a rite of joy, if we think of a rite, a ritual, a dance, a ceremony, what is that? And what is the purpose of a ritual? Well, a ritual has a purpose typically that ties into consciousness and intention. So if I want to celebrate the equinox, for example, I may perform a rite, perhaps drawing a circle, perhaps doing a meditation. There will be a series of steps that is the ritual rite to honor the equinox. Now, this is in a system of energy or a system of psychology. Now, in order to gain the right to rent an apartment, we're doing a different ritual. the ritual of walking, the ritual of going through the motions, of walking, of talking, of handing over bits of paper, of signing one's name, and there it is. So you could say that all rites are steps, are rituals, are protocols that have an intention. And that if you think of rights of human beings, something you and I might do. Do I have the right of way in a driving situation? Well, that ties into the protocol of rules, of laws for, driving. If I'm on the right side and I have the right of way, because the law in a country of law says that the person on the right has the right of way, then I have the right of way as part of being in the ritual of buying and owning a car, the ritual of driving the car. I want to go left, so the ritual suggests that I go like this. I want to go right, the ritual suggests that I go like this, and then I have the right to go right by performing the ritual. So here are a few ways that words can give us clues about the nature of reality as perceived through language. Hi, I'm Dane Rose. All knowledge begins with a paradigm, and out of that paradigm comes an idea, an awareness that we adopt, reject, or synthesize into something better. It doesn't become wisdom, it doesn't become useful until we take action, until we integrate it into not only our thoughts, but our feelings, our body, our words, and our way of being. For that to occur, we have to move from the passive media paradigm into more active engagement. In the link below, in the More Information section, is an invitation to join a very small, deliberately filtered, high-quality discussion with a group of people who share a common language and want to work with these ideas, with me and with one another, with the sole goal of creating 10 times more sustainable well-being for ourselves and those around us per unit of energy invested. Thank you for watching.